if I am in a squadron or wing space and I have an ultrasound and someone has pain and I ultrasound their knee, is that bad medicine? Shame on you for pulling out an ultrasound with sterile gel to do an exam in a squadron space while you have hand sanitizer? No, it's called industry standard. It's exactly what we do in the community. That's exactly what I would do as a sports medicine physician across the street.
Team, welcome back to the Mops and Mo's universe. I don't know. Do we have an apology? Maybe. We wrote an article. I wrote an article. I'll say it. It was me. About how everyone sucks at being human. That was the gist of it. Maybe it turns into a larger thing. Who knows? But it was somewhat in jest. If you haven't read it yet, please go to our website. You'll find it there.
Deliberately designed to provoke responses.
Intentionally designed to provoke discussion will be polite, but mostly just to piss people off. And it was a list of things that I've felt with no outside opinion whatsoever, except for some people that work for me and like just for funsies, stuff you should be able to do if you're human. The underlying point was most people just train in silos and do what they like to do and they ignore everything else. And then when shit hits the fan, they realize they can't swim and then they die. That's kind of what the idea was. Turned that into an Instagram post as you do with an organization like this. Mm-hmm. And also as you do in 2026, used AI to like help create some imagery. Come to find out, some people who follow our platform think we are now Satan. And I'll let you elaborate.
And I should be clear. So like some people alluded to the fact that like the text might've been AI generated and that was why there were typos in it.
No, that was just Alex.
That was all me. That was no AI in the text.
Yeah, you'll find the blog post has no typos.
Yeah,
the Instagram content rife.
Purely me. And there were three of them. One of them Drew did notice before I posted it and called it out, so I should have
one for
it,
three.
I didn't.
You wait.
Two were there.
You're right. You didn't fix the one I called you out on.
No, I did not.
Damn, guys, look, this is the kind of organization we run around here. Jeez.
To be clear, like, if people have noticed, there's been...
You even said good catch in the group chat.
I did say good catch. There's been a much higher frequency of content on the Instagram.
Yes.
There's been near daily content for the last, like, few weeks or a month that requires some help, but a lot of the content production and all of the content posting falls on me. And the content, I tend to post it in the morning. I don't create it in the morning, but I tend to post it in the morning. And I woke up that day and it was before work. And I'm like, man, I need to put something up. I feel like I need to put up that You Suck at Being Human one. And I forgot that there were still edits that need to be made. I hadn't finished editing it. I posted it. Do I feel bad? Actually, not at all. Not really.
No, you shouldn't. No.
I do bring, frankly, a lower standard of work to the Instagram than I bring to other places. Sorry, that's just what it is. The Instagram is to generate attention, and like there are more valuable things that we do. And hopefully, I hundreds of people liked that post. I don't think hundreds of people have read the actual article.
No,
and that is because the internet sucks, and you guys have low attention spans. And like, if you're here on the podcast, it means we got you over the leap from like the clickbaity bullshit on the social media into the actual nuanced discussion. So thank you for making the leap. There are you represent a very small percentage of our social media audience.
You do not suck at being human. Yeah. You are actually good at this.
You are awesome, and we appreciate you. And hopefully you can detect slightly higher standards in this podcast than you can in the social media.
Or you're that douche nozzle that had commentary about using AI, and then you engaged with him, and then...
And to be fair, it was one guy. It wasn't like a big dialogue. Not a lot of other people were involved. But one guy was very upset.
Very upset.
Even though like the content was human, the background like silhouette images were AI generated. And I tried to engage him on a conversation about it. Like Drew's seen the comments. I tried to be like, hey, man, like tell me why you have an issue with this. And he didn't really do that. And a realization clicked in my head today, I think. And I followed up on some of his comments because I realized he's fighting with me saying that AI is always bad on a Meta platform. Like Meta just laid off 6,500 people so they could free up capital to invest in AI.
There you
Meta
go.
just reassigned like 5,000 engineers to be on their like AI group just to focus on purely that. Meta is sinking hundreds of billions of dollars into AI data centers. Like it's weird to be like an active Instagram participant and like a firm anti-AI person, because like there's a good chance he found our content thanks to AI.
Well, if you can't beat them, join them, team. And
He
we'll
did
say it
unfollow the
here.
page though. He did unfollow the page.
Oh, man. Well,
At the start of that conversation, he followed. At the end of that conversation, he was not a follower. So he's gone. Sorry.
you hate to see it. Well, team, look, we'll say it here first. We're about to switch our entire content over to AI. Like, you won't even hear us anymore. None of the blogs that we write are about to be real in any way, shape, or form.
Should the whole podcast just be AI? Should we like create agents of ourselves to? Yeah.
I think we've said enough words to where they could probably.
Should we?
I mean,
stop having human
my
guests and just start having AI?
yeah.
Guests?
My chat GPT thinks I'm like a hippie farmer, sourdough, woodsman painter. So I don't know if we'll see what kind of
The
identity.
AI is so
it creates.
sycophantic though. Like I tried
Makes
to
me
ask,
happy.
I tried to ask GPT like what the most popular military human performance podcasts are, and it started sucking up to me.
Good.
It was like, oh, since you're the host of Mops and Mo's, you obviously know that Mops and Mo's is the best one. I was like, that's not what I asked for. I didn't ask you to like.
Were you blushing though?
Like hype me up. Like I asked.
Were you
for
blushing?
I want it to be based on numbers, not like,
Stop. No, keep going, but stop. But keep going. Speaking of hyping people up, though,
hell yeah.
we got a round 2 tonight. We have a
Repeat guest,
returning
Kevin Bernstein is
repeat guest,
back.
but with new news.
But yeah, if you want the full bio of Commander Kevin Bernstein, you can go to the previous episode he was on, where we talked about
Which
some of the
we
early
don't have
stages
numbers
of a lot of
for.
this. We don't have
Yes.
numbers, but his name is on it, so go check it out.
Mhm.
But things have evolved. Things are moving fast in military human performance land, and especially fast in Navy human performance land.
They're
Making
sailing
it happen.
into the future.
Yeah.
See what that was?
And
That was
I
a
think
pun.
I think we can probably classify Kevin as a friend of the pod at this point. He has stayed in touch since his last episode.
Yeah.
Active in some of the conversations we're having, sending us information. So
Not
I
AI.
appreciate all that. No,
He's
not
real.
AI. But he is back to discuss the ways this has evolved. He is switching jobs. He's entering in a new position. He's building a new program here that has the potential to expand to a large portion of the Navy. So we're gonna learn a little bit about what building it looks like in the specific context of the Navy, which gets into aircraft and ships and
Not boats, ships.
Some of those. I did say boats once, sorry, but yes, ships. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess unless you've had your head in the sand for the last little bit, and you work in this space, you will know that military human performance is about to be very big. It's not just going to be. We've gone from like the special operations kind of generation now to the big Army generation with H2F, and then here we are with Navy, and with Navy, obviously you have Marine Corps, and then Air Force is not too far behind. So you're about to see an explosion of this type of thing. And we wanted Kevin to come on. And quite frankly, Kevin also wanted to come on and talk about it because, one, for sort of the layperson, you're going to see a lot of opportunities in terms of career progression type stuff. But then two, on sort of the military side, if you're in the Navy, hopefully pretty soon here, you're going to see some pretty cool resources headed your way. So we at Mops and Mo's will always do our level best to bring you guys the most breaking of news. And I guess maybe this could file under that. But yeah, whether you're sitting on a boat or a ship, I just did it. Whether you're sitting on a ship or posted up in some installation in some far off port of call, enjoy this week's conversation with Kevin Bernstein. This week's episode is brought to you by Teamworks. If you have performance data scattered across apps, spreadsheets, group chats, it means things get missed. Teamworks brings it all together. Training, nutrition, scheduling, communication, all in one platform built for the people responsible for readiness. Learn more today at teamworkstactical.com.
So everyone who PCSs has that other bedroom, so pardon the mess in the background. This is that other bedroom.
What is that big black machine behind you?
That is a multi-purpose thing. So when
he's
you
flexing
and
on
your
your
wife
printer.
when you and your wife do staff work, it is a requirement that when you fly PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets that you need to make sure you have the office set up to telework.
Interesting.
Look at Drew's.
This is a tiny little. I got a tiny little guy. But hey, it does color, so got that going for me.
I don't have a printer in my home, and I think that says something good about like the life I live, that I'm not printing out work documents from my
fair.
house.
That's a good point.
Can you? This is such a big question. What does Navy human performance look like right now?
There are many programs of record. There are many programs that want to be the program of record. There are a couple of efforts that are gaining traction. CNIC, MWR, they're putting out the HPO, Human Performance Optimization Program. They just piloted 32nd Street, San Diego. They are mostly on the injury prevention, left side of bank equation, staying out of medical oversight, versus Navy sports medicine, been integrated with Marine Corps for quite some time. With smart centers, we've done some smart center concepts on the blue side at Navy concentrated areas, boot camp, as well as where you have flight school and other types of training platforms. So Navy sports medicine from a HP standpoint has been around for decades, with most of our progress being on the Marine Corps side, quite honestly. But with the new role I'm taking over, we're trying to stand up more of an HP effort on the aviation side.
Do you have a sense of like which? Because I'm thinking of Navy, right? And in my mind, it was boats and sailors. And then I was looking at all of the content you sent us, and that was very clearly aviation focused. You also have a sort of a ground aspect as well. Like which? Has Big Navy identified a population that really needs this, or is it just kind of across the board?
I think across the board, there's a need for some type of performance optimization program when it comes to the everyday sailor. You have your higher investment as in terms of Naval Special Warfare, right? So
yeah,
they're under SOCOM, but from a naval standpoint, they are the program of record that kind of is that standard when it comes to a true HP program, stemming from development group, then to your special warfare groups through POTIF funding, right? So that's kind of the model. MARSOC has a very similar setup. Sports medicine, physicians being more integrated recently, and gaining traction in those communities as well. When it comes to the everyday sailor fleet concentrated areas, aircraft carriers, they had the embedded physical therapists on the carriers for decades now.
Interesting. One guy?
One physical therapist for thousands of people. Yes, the ratio is not
because there's 5,000 people on an aircraft carrier, right? And
that's
one,
that ratio is not helpful. And then there's a fit boss who's the strength and conditioning coach that goes underway on deployments. And then you have resiliency folks, mental health assets. So you have a small HP-like team on the aircraft carriers. And some of the large deck amphibs now have a physical therapist on board with the thousands of Marines that embark. But still, you're talking about thousands of folks to one physical therapist.
Before we keep going, do the physical therapist and the fit boss directly collaborate, or is that just something you hope happens because they're on the same boat?
Something you hope happens. Usually it does, though. Like usually they link up. Usually they work together. If you have a motivated physical therapist that's a prior athletic trainer or has a strength and conditioning background, orthopedics fellowship trained, they very much so like to collaborate on that wellness fitness side. But again, thousands of sailors. You have some Marines on board, all the aviators with their back issues. So, I mean, it's a huge undertaking.
You said usually they collaborate. So you're telling me there's two, we'll call them sports medicine professionals on a boat for a long time, and sometimes they happen to talk. And that's kind of what we're okay with.
That's currently the status. Now, what I will say is the boss that I work for is responsible for the aircraft carriers on the East Coast here. So obviously with me in this new brand new created role as the director for human performance for the entire force on the East Coast, my intent is to get a very good unity of effort as well as programmatic system put into place where PT, mental health, the strength and conditioning assets while underway are going to interact with each other as part of the deployed spoke in the entire human performance model we're rolling out.
So I guess my follow-on question, because, you know, with H2F and with the Army, there's clear kind of negative trajectories that drive these things, right? Like soldiers being overweight, low PT scores, these sorts of things. And I can understand that as a ground force, that's far more, I don't know if relevant's the right word, but like, is the Navy, this is going to sound so dumb, but like, is the Navy struggling with overweight sailors on ships? Like, that's a thing. Okay. And so that's driving some of this.
Very much a thing. Navy's data is the worst of all the services, actually.
It's the worst. Yeah.
But you guys have the smallest doors you have to walk through. That's wild.
And our physical fitness test should be climbing up ladders with, you know, carrying people up ladders, right? And fitting through the ladder wells. And
I was told before, I don't want to lose this one. I got in a fight about this years ago with some Navy folks.
Like physically?
It does seem like the like foundational task, like the Army always turns to evacuate a casualty. And like Navy has a very specific version of evacuated casualty. It's like firefighting / evacuated casualty are like the things for sailors. That's why it's in boot camp for sailors. And the uniqueness of switching levels on a boat with a casualty, like moving them through a hatch.
Ship. It's called a ship. We talked about this on a podcast a while back.
Sorry.
It's a ship. Come on.
But like there are specific physical demands there. And I was countered one time, and I believe this was a Navy officer. I'm not going to go farther than that because I don't want to identify the person because our beef is squashed at this point. But they made the case to me that like firefighting is a rate on the ship. So the firefighters are responsible for the firefighting. And so they shouldn't be responsible for firefighting. That's somebody else's problem. And I just don't see how that works in an actual emergency situation on a ship.
It can't. I mean, when you have a combat casualty scenario, everyone is fighting the combat casualty scenario. Everyone's a stretcher bearer, right? Everyone's trying to, you know, save the casualties.
And for the audience, picture pretty steep ladders through very narrow openings.
I just don't get why swimming isn't like a core component to all of this. Because if the ship goes down, you're all swimming. But that's not on the PT test, right?
It is not on the PT test. You have to do a swimming qual upon entry, but that is not the highest bar ever created. I'll leave it at that.
Interesting. We're dumb. This is a rabbit hole. Sorry.
Has anyone ever looked at like mental health outcomes of sailors on ships correlated with whether they think they could swim if they fell in the ocean? Because like if I knew I couldn't swim very well and I was deployed for months on a ship,
that's a good point, man.
I'd kind of go crazy.
I mean, your whole surrounding is like death versus if you can swim, it's like opportunity. Like I could see how that would totally change the game.
For me, it's about treading water. Like, if you're in the middle of, I don't know, the south side,
you're not swimming to safety, but
in distributed maritime operations, you're not swimming anywhere to safety. You're
not swimming to safety, but how long you can stay alive in the water does determine how much of a chance there is to rescue.
Or if Rose lets you get on the door. If Rose lets you get on the door, you obviously would last a lot longer. That's, I mean, not to get into Titanic drama, but you know, speaking of ships going down.
So funny fact, in at least in my experience on the last ship I was on, the captain's boat, if the ship were to abandon ship, accommodates the doctor.
Wait, the captain gets his own lifeboat?
Yep.
Man, so much for women and children first.
Place, man.
Seriously, we need to spend more time here. I derailed us. I apologize.
I'll get us back on the rails. So I am curious. I'll follow your lead on this one because I know it's sensitive because you're still in position, but like we might dive into a little bit of like policy stuff at like the service Department of War or legislative level here, depending on where we go. If we touch a rail that is not okay for you, let us know.
Blink twice.
My first question is pretty safe though, because I've been thinking about this a lot in my day job recently. You are operating very much as like an entrepreneur within the military, like building something new in an organization that like rejects anything new with like violence. I am curious what the experience has been like, and does it? Because like I I was venting about this today, but it feels like if I just cared a lot less, my day job would be much easier
I've been
because
telling you that for years.
I wouldn't fight to change everything. I could
Yeah.
just be quiet and do what's already allowed and not try and make anything better and chill. But like clearly that's not how you're operating. It isn't how I'm operating either. I'm curious what the build something new experience has been like in the environment of the Navy.
Oh man, so many thoughts, so many triggered feelings when you take all of that out there. However, you are correct. Like it's so much easier just to do your job and go home at the end of the day. But when you're a change agent that believes in something so simple as just taking care of the basic needs of the warfighter, and you're not seeing the basic needs of taking care of the warfighter being met, while at the same time leaders are asking why are we having a retention problem, it really strikes a nerve in people that just want to do what's right for the everyday person to fulfill their basic needs. And you have that hierarchy of needs. If you don't fulfill those basic needs, they're going to find another place that does, right? So, what I would say is, I am so passionate for so many years to implement something like this in communities that don't have it, that no matter what the resistance is, like for me, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to fight and bring this forward.
You are a doctor. How much of the resistance you face is your medical community?
It's significant. It's significant. And the reason I say that is because I sit down and talk with manpower folks. I sit down and talk with our Corps. I have been learning so much about everything that I did not learn in medical school, that the folks that did not learn any of the stuff that I've been able to basically gulp from a fire hose right now the past 6 weeks. I've only been on the job for 6 weeks now. But just the amount of sheer information that I have learned has been very overwhelming. But at the same time, like if you've gone to medical school, you've done an advanced degree, like you've drank from a fire hose before, you already know how to critically think and process information, regardless of the subject matter at hand. But when folks don't feel comfortable because they don't know, because they're not educated on that, the automatic default is no. And if that information is coming from someone who's not a manpower expert or from someone who's not a Corps, but you're trying to convey that from like a physician to physician, automatically you don't have the credibility because you don't have that master's degree or you don't hold that specific position. So what you're saying automatically needs to be, okay, I'm going to go verify that. And the desire to verify that at a very quick rate is not at the top of their priority list when you're in a position dedicated to rolling out a program. So I would say that there's a significant cultural barrier when it comes to trying to implement new programs in communities that are not used to that. And there is a very fine line you need to walk in the level of discomfort when you're talking about a high risk and a high reliability type of environment, especially when you're talking about naval aviation. The last time I was on your show, we did speak about human performance in aviation, and that most of the aviators that you speak to, the air crew, will tell you, I don't feel like I'm being treated like an athlete, and that there's no true human performance program of record. I caught a lot of flack from the aerospace medicine, like senior leadership, when that came out.
Whoops.
I hear pretty regularly about people catching flack after they were on our podcast.
Sorry.
Should have warned you.
They do human performance, but it's not the human performance that we're talking about when it comes to a program of record that takes care of the entire continuum of injury to optimization with all skill types. That is a true performance program of record. The aerospace community has done a very good job at the occupational requirements to optimize the person in the air or the person flying the aircraft, as well as the folks maintaining the aircraft in that specific occupation. In parallel, sports medicine is the occupational medicine specialty to take care of the athlete. Both communities route waivers. I route NCAA waivers for medication use exemptions, and I do up chits when I return someone to play on the field, also in a high risk environment for the most part, depending on if it's a contact sport or an F1 Formula One driver or something like that, right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of comparisons in human performance aspects in the aerospace medicine community, as well as in the sports medicine community. And it should not be like an adversarial relationship. In a lot of respects, it should be a very big unity of effort, right? And you're right. And a lot of the resistance, stems from, what are you doing? Sports medicine physician working without wings. My wife lets me know all the time I don't have wings. She's got them. I don't. But when it comes down to it, she has watched me work with D1 sports, Navy football. She's watched me work with Naval Special Warfare, SEAL operators, providing that level of performance optimization, restorative care, preservation care to prolong the service life. And at the same time, you have another highly functioning community that doesn't have that type of setup. So yes, I get that I'm not winged and I'm not a flight surgeon. However, I feel like we all, at the end of the day, want the same exact thing, is to keep them flying, keep them safely flying, and having them come home after they're done flying so that they can take care of their families and play with their kids and not in pain for the rest of their lives.
It's tough though, and I think in a few minutes we will dive more into the like distinction between human performance and medical and like where we think that line is. But I think it's worth acknowledging the bureaucracy of it all, because different organizations with slightly different mandates but who share responsibility for certain outcomes inevitably get competitive, and there's going to be turf war problems. I think that's unavoidable. It would be great if we could all say we're on the same page, we're moving the same direction, we all want the same thing, but like that's just not welcome to large organizations with limited resources. You're going to be competing with those people, especially when like the ways we measure outcomes for the different programs happen to overlap in significant ways. Before I get lost in it, I'm going to do a shameless plug for something that appeared on 2 episodes ago. I'll ask a question first and then I'll plug the thing. How did you decide what professionals belonged on the team for your program?
I literally just looked at what true D1 collegiate, professional, international level, high functioning teams looked like. And then I also compared to every single program of record that exists. And let's be clear, naval aviation is the only aviation component without a program of record of similar human performance capability. So silver lining of being the last one to do it is I get to look at the components of all of these different programs, both in industry as well as in the military. And what it came down to is really our experience at Naval Special Warfare and in how they have desired expanding and actually palming for additional sports medicine physicians to become part of the team is to provide that whole body, holistic, all organ system approach to integrating the entire HP team from left of bang, right of bang, and then back to left to optimize. And really the secret sauce was to have someone who's occupation specific for that community, a dive medical officer, UMO, having a psychiatrist with a psychology collaborative relationship, having performance optimization pieces, your strength and conditioning coaches, your cognitive optimization folks, as well as athletic trainers, both with a strength and conditioning background, as well as with a professional D1 or other high functioning background. And then collaborating with your physical therapists and your physical therapy techs, all under one team. And I think you can have turf battles when you have that team together. However, for whatever reason, we had the perfect mix where everyone knew that they had their lane. However, it was mutually respected that I don't know the answers to all the things in your lane. My ego's checked at the door because, like, I just want what's best for the operator. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Let's co-evaluate folks together. Let's have a human performance sync where we bring all the skill types together and come up with their post-op or their post a plasma injection, and then we're going to return them to the strength and conditioning team. How that continuum of care lines up from restoration to preservation to optimization. You really have to have all of those components in the same space, as close to the warfighter as possible, if you're truly going to get after all the various things that you're going to encounter as a truly high functioning human performance team.
Can I ask why there was no dietitian?
Dietitian's in there.
Man, was it?
I always leave someone out. Yeah, dietitian's
okay.
in there.
I was like, so, either he said it, I didn't hear it, or he didn't say it, and it's a talking point. Okay.
Oh,
good.
No. Yeah, we love our performance dietitians. So I worked with an incredible one at Group 2. I work with Christy Logan. We worked on NDA language together. We got that into last year's NDAA for sports foods and sports supplements. I highly value our performance dietitians. We've been working.
There you go. I didn't want you to get in trouble after your second time.
I appreciate that.
So,
I never want to get in trouble.
Perfect.
My dietitian colleagues.
Yeah, there you go.
Superstars.
So, pretty good pitch. Now I have to push back.
Okay.
Do we think the human performance resource needs are identical between Division I sport, pro sport, Navy Special Warfare, a carrier, an aviation group? Like, do we think the needs are the same?
No, the needs are not the same.
Since they're not, do we think the staffing might need to flex between those different things?
100%. Yes.
How do you decide what
teeing up his
staffing
plug.
differences are appropriate?
He's teeing up his plug.
So
I am teeing up my plug. So the question is here, as far as I know, the community-based blueprinting approach has only been applied by the Air Force so far. And within the Air Force, it's only been applied to like one career field at a time. I am curious if that's a tool set that the Navy is considering for doing essentially the needs analysis piece of what staff and what resources would be appropriate in what settings. I think, rewinding our conversation a little bit, the nature of a ship and like the limited space and the limited number of bodies you can have on board forces you to think really critically about like what the top priority staffing and resources are. So I'm curious whether the Navy is leaning in on like very deliberate needs assessment for what resources belong where.
I can't say that the Navy at large is looking at that specifically. I do know, talking with my point of contact at OpNav, NIC, as well as N17, when it comes to total sailor fitness and those types of initiatives, that their biggest question is the exact question you're posing. How do we scale this with the right skill types in significantly high concentrated ship areas, right? So in Norfolk or in San Diego, which is your highest concentration fleet area, how do you scale these assets? Where do you put them? What do each platform require? What's the ratios? And what's the exact skill types that the sailors need? And how much is this going to cost? So the dream scenario, like if you asked Kevin what his thoughts were, I would have at least one strength and conditioning coach assigned to every surface platform, every sub platform, at the bare minimum. If you wanted to dual hat them as a dual certified athletic trainer, like that is a thing. However, not all dually certified athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches are created the same, nor do they apply the same type of programmatic things. Some are very more on the athletic training side, some are very more strength conditioning, some are hybrid, but that's the wild card. You don't know what you're going to get on each platform. So it's hard to standardize that, right? How many dietitians do you need in a fleet concentrated area? You're talking tens of thousands of sailors here in Norfolk, right? So is 1 to 2 dietitians at an MWR going to suffice for the actual demand? If we're truly trying to get to optimization of the sailor, right?
How do you, or I guess in your sort of surveys of the landscape, so to speak, H2F comes to mind, right? Because like staffing structure has been a hot button topic since day one. We had big teams, we have small teams. They've got this, we've added that, whatever. Have you taken any lessons from that when you look at your structure? And as part two of that question, how do you prevent what seems almost inevitable with these types of rollouts, which is to say that you show positive return on investment, and then the next question becomes, how can we do it with less cost? So let's cut things. Like, what does that look like in your eyes?
So I think, and I'm in the needs assessment, I'm in the market research phase, which is phenomenal, by the way. What I can tell you is that I am looking at every single occupation,
Mm-hmm.
the total ratios of mechanics and ground crew and air crew, what the platform is, what the platform does to the human, what are the injury patterns to the human, what are the true operational requirements and in the prolonged operation setting, what's the training demand during the training cycle, what does the operational cycle look like from post deployment to training to deployment, and how do you apply those assets at key moments of opportunity during a deployment cycle. What assets are you going to scale in a training environment at flight school,
Mm.
at the fighter strike wing where they're training new fighter pilots? Where are the moments of opportunity, and who are you going to send in that very limited amount of time to provide that education within the syllabus? And when are you going to find time to have folks come to you with the things that are concerning them to optimize their performance? So every platform is going to be different in how many cognitive folks that are going to be required for that. So say your E2 Hawkeye or your P8s, they're much more cognitive focused. They're not pulling as many G's. The injury patterns are different. And the requirements for the backseaters are going to be a little bit different from a cognitive space. And the attention span as well as the reaction speeds might be slightly different in comparison to backseaters and other aircraft. So the way that you train and the type of cognitive specialist is going to vary too, in what you put in, let's say, an E2 Hawkeye P8, and my wife flew on E2s, versus an F-18, F-35 scenario where you have multiple things where you have to like have high cognitive and high physical. So those ratios are going to obviously differ depending on platform. So we are looking at applying ratios according to the platform as well as to the total number of population when it comes to the ground crew as well.
That's so interesting because you guys, I didn't, I think of like naval aviation, right? But to your point, there's platforms within that, and each platform is different. The Army also has different platforms in a roundabout way, but it seems like what we've arrived at is just combat, non-combat, and we still fight over that. But a needs assessment, and maybe Alex, this is community-based blueprinting, but it's interesting that we have decided upon, hey, this is the size, this is what it's going to look like. I understand that from a policy, writing contracts, creating position descriptions, it makes it easier. But the more surgical approach, no pun intended, because you're a doctor, makes a lot more sense.
and we include rotary wing, and that's very Army centric too. Rotary wing platform has a significant different distribution of injury patterns
for sure.
As
neck
well
and back
as
stuff.
Neck and back, peripheral nerves and upper extremities, behind back, up around, so rotator cuff. So the preparatory to make the human more resilient to what the aircraft platform is going to do to them over the period of duration of their service life, you have to do some preparatory prehab. We're actually doing prehab tailored to the aircraft and what that aircraft is going to do to their bodies over time. So that really is how we're approaching this: is what is the aircraft doing to the human? What is the human expected to do on that aircraft? How do we make that human more resilient to what that aircraft is doing to them? And then how do we make them more lethal with what they need to do with the power of that aircraft when it comes to fighting against their adversaries.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm a shill for community-based blueprinting at this point. I'm just trying to convince the whole force that we need to do a better job of aligning our resources to like specific gaps and specific needs where they are. We'll see what happens. People here know all about WPO. We'll get there in a second. At this point, I have to dive into like a topic of significant frustration for me. And some of this has been on LinkedIn recently. You've been in the comments. I've seen that. And some of it we might have different perspectives because you come from a more medical background. But I'm curious. I'll ask a vague version of the question first before I get real nitpicky on stuff. Where is the line between medical / healthcare and human performance, given that basically all teams in this space have accepted that they're going to be medical providers on the team?
Right. I'm going to, and this is apples to oranges, but I'm going to talk dental for a second because I feel like dental's figured out readiness levels.
Nice.
Well
that is a deep take.
Let's go.
Out in town.
This is a new one.
That is a deep take.
You have dental classes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you have a preventive health side of that as well. Your cleanings, your maintenance, your required annual tune-up, right? Your required examinations. And you're not a specific class until you fulfill those check boxes in prevention, maintenance, as well as hygiene, whatever needs to be done to your teeth. And then there's a potential non-deployable status depending on what type of work you need. They have really cracked the case, in my opinion, as far as integrating the entire preventive side to include right of bang and then getting you back left of bang with all of the skill sets in one profession. So that's an apple orange take.
This week's episode is brought to you by Teamworks. 1 dietitian, 3,500 service members, all of them receiving personalized nutrition plans. Teamworks gives service members access to personalized nutrition guidance at scale. Visit teamworkstactical.com today to learn more. Team, this episode of Mops and Mo's is brought to you by Train Heroic. Train Heroic is a reliable, well-designed platform for programming, tracking, and communicating with athletes. If you've been with us for any length of time, you will know that Train Heroic is the platform that we use to power our own training, long and strong, which you can find at our website, mopsandmos.com. If you're looking for a solid platform to support your own coaching, whether it's your full-time role or a side hustle, Train Heroic is definitely worth checking out. You can use the link in any of our show notes. You can find it in our newsletter, or you can head to our website, mopsandmos.com/training to get your first week for free.
I kind of get that one. My issue is no matter what dental class you are, the care you are going to receive is always medical. So it simplifies things a little bit for them.
Is dental class like how bad your teeth are? Is that
the like level of risk the military thinks you have of having a dental emergency if they deploy you?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the short version.
So dental's figured out how to kind of put that preventive side into the mix. As a primary care physician trained, like preventive health, lifestyle medicine, like that's as far left of bang as you can get in the physician realm. And when I did the programming that I did in my first deployments with the Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Okinawa, we did one-on-one sessions where it was lifestyle medicine evaluations. This is before lifestyle medicine was even like a board or certification or anything like that. And we went through all of the pillars, all of the H2F pillars in one meeting. And that was I spent half of my day on deployment just doing that one-on-one lifestyle assessments. And then if we found anything that needed a medical workup, then we converted to getting labs, getting an x-ray, me doing an ultrasound to take a look to see if I could see anything structural going on, but also talking about all of the other things that were not injured that definitely contribute to that injured part getting better, right? So if I have an ankle injury and I'm depressed and I'm not sleeping well and I only address the ankle, then I've lost that holistic approach where injuries and mental health play off each other all the time, right? So if I'm not integrated with a holistic team, that becomes a lot more difficult and it does not streamline the process. For example, let's take it into aviation. And the Training Wing 6 prototype has shown this. If someone comes in and they tweak their knee and they saw PT and sports medicine same day, and they decided that there was no downtime needed because it was just some type of knee thing, it was a strain. The sports med did the ultrasound on site, didn't show any structural abnormality. Exam tested fine. Physical therapist gave them a home plan or something that they could do supervised in the spaces with the physical therapist at the squadron. Versus I tweaked the knee. Maybe I did or didn't seek care, because if I do seek care, I might get put on a down status and I can't fly anymore until I'm put in an up status. And then if it gets bad enough, I wait 1 to 2 weeks after I see the flight surgeon, where I wait another 2 to 4 weeks to see the physical therapist, where I might need to see a sports medicine or orthopedist, where I might need advanced imaging. And then you're down so long that you actually require additional flight hours to get back into an up status. And I might need a waiver from aerospace medicine to even return to flying, even if everything tests normal, right?
So I'm hearing a lot of things about like preventive application of medical care, but I'm still not figuring out where the boundary is when something falls under medical governance versus outside of medical governance. And that's what I'm trying to get to here.
I know that's what you're trying to get to.
Alex has his LinkedIn hat on.
I think when you include the entire team together, I think the structural concept includes the medical part if it needs to become a medical thing. And then it truly integrates and streamlines the process where, and Vice Admiral Vi, who was our Surgeon General in the Navy, one of his lines of effort was to streamline musculoskeletal care. This is how you streamline musculoskeletal care, is that you put all of the components together to allow the continuum of care from injury to sustainment and preservation and optimization.
Switching to rapid fire direct questions. Should there be a difference in the scope of practice if a medical provider is operating in a medical treatment facility versus in an embedded human performance setting?
I would say no. And the reason why I would say no is, as a sports medicine trained physician, my playing field is the playing field. That's where I was trained. Being a dual board certified physician and being an adult requires me to also make adult choices. So is the 50-yard line tent in the middle of Army-Navy game the right spot to do an ultrasound guided injection into a rib next to a lung? No. It's freaking dumb, right? At the same time, if I am in a squadron or wing space and I have an ultrasound and someone has pain and I ultrasound their knee, is that bad medicine? Shame on you for pulling out an ultrasound with sterile gel to do an exam in a squadron space while you have hand sanitizer? No, it's called industry standard. It's exactly what we do in the community. That's exactly what I would do as a sports medicine physician across the street.
So how then is it so hard for the same organization that does trauma care on the battlefield to wrap their mind around what you just described, which is reasonable scope of care happening in places that are not necessarily up to MTF standards of infection control?
Did they reach out to the people providing that level of care in those spaces? And the answer probably is probably not, right? Did they reach out to subject matter experts in sports medicine that may or may not be a specialty leader when making said decisions? I haven't received any phone calls, right? So when it comes down to it,
in your setting that you're in now, I'm drilling down for a reason. You've posted some like mock-ups of like a theoretical space once it's all up to speed and everything. Mm-hmm. Do you expect that space? Who does your credentialing and privileging as the sports medicine physician? Is that the local military treatment facility?
No. So I am credentialed through Fleet Forces Command, who's delegated via the Surgeon General of the Navy. and
There we
that
go.
is further delegated to the air land force surgeon, my immediate boss, who is the privileging authority for all East Coast carriers and aviation assets. So the
I feel like I
Surgeon
need to say
General,
this really directly to the audience for a second. I don't know how much
Most people
audience
have
this is
no
relevant
idea what
to.
you're talking about.
Enough people know what I'm talking about that it's going to be important for the next 20 seconds, which is like, listen to what he just said. There is a difference in how things are handled between if providers in embedded settings are credentialed through the local MTF, which sees itself as a hospital and behaves like a hospital for valid reasons, or if they are credentialed and privileged through service leadership type of offices who understand what the mission is and see the mission as the priority rather than being the best hospital in their region as the priority. Like this is going to be important for every embedded human performance program across all the services.
It's meeting the operational requirement and the commander's intent when it comes to the COCOM, the TICOM, and their lower echelon commanders. What is the most pressing issues medically, performance-based, et cetera, in their spaces? And they're all going to tell you, I want my people taken care of with the minimal amount of time away from work. And what's the best way to accomplish commander's intent for that specific reason is to put the embedded assets as close to the warfighter as possible. And that is meeting the operational demand and operational requirement for the line, which is the supported, not the supporting. The MTF is not the supported, and our medical assets are not the supported either. We are supporting components for the operational demand. If the operational demand is, I want our people away from work as minimal as possible to meet the operational requirements that I need to fulfill for my boss, then that is what we should be doing.
By your understanding of the policy framework you're going to operate in, what inspection standard should the facility that the team operates in have to meet?
That's a great question, and we actually have the blueprint at Naval Special Warfare. They put together through Navy Medicine and their chief medical officer, chief nursing officer, medical assist visits and inspections for oversight, quality, and safety. And what they do is they send the medical assist visit as well as the oversight inspection team to the spaces to make sure they adhere to very similar Joint Commission standards within those spaces to the best of their capabilities, given the potential for being on a barge or being on an aircraft carrier where you may not have access to all of the things, but
you tell me you don't have the same doorway width and hallway heights and exfil opportunities on a ship as you do in a hospital?
Yeah. So what we're really trying to do is everyone is trying to provide the safest quality care as possible to meet the commander's intent and to make sure that the warfighter is returned as safely and as quickly as possible. We're all trying to do the same thing. Whether or not it's a Joint Commission evaluation or whether or not it is a medical site inspection done on behalf of the privileging authority through each component's Surgeon General, I think as long as we're inspecting spaces, providing oversight, and allowing our folks to have the flexibility to carry out the operational intent while maintaining the highest safety standards, at the end of the day, I don't think we're doing anything wrong.
I like it. It seems common sense. It seems reasonable. Where my frustration, if it's not obvious to listeners, comes from personal experience, and I'll do a quick story and then hand it to Drew so we stop with just me venting about the shenanigans. But I asked a very specific question a few weeks ago. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle around infection control kind of stuff. And I asked, if my physical therapist is out at the field watching a unit do like sports or PT or something, and they see somebody get hurt, is he allowed to help them? And the infection control person said, hold on, I have to ask the commander. Like, I need to check. And like, no, that's the wrong answer. Like, there's an ethical obligation if he is there with the medical skills to help that person. I know it's not in the clinic, but like it should be like, you made the note about like you're a sports medicine physician, like the field is where you take care of people. Like we have to have a clear understanding of what care can be provided where, or what discretion a provider has in making an adult decision about, I could do this here safely. Like we're not even talking about high risk stuff. We're talking about like finding out whether their ankle, like Ottawa ankle protocol, maybe, right? Like, is this like a minor injury that we don't need to worry about right now? Or is this a really severe injury that we need to go elevate care? There's literally no risk involved in that. It's just an assessment, but it is technically provision of medical care.
I think infection prevention nurses and specialists are significantly important to the healthcare system. Right?
That was really nice of you.
Their mission is to, again, do what all of us are trying to do at the end of the day, is to provide safe, quality care that makes sense at that moment in time for what's in front of you, right? So if you're in an OR and you're not practicing safe infection control standards, then obviously that lane is yours and you should take it. If I'm in that field at the Army-Navy game and someone goes down and is injured, I'm not going to take that Navy football player a few miles down the road to the MTF to evaluate them because an infectious disease nurse thought that I couldn't provide medical care on the field of play.
That was good.
So easy.
Honestly, this may be a question for both of you guys, but like I'm curious how you guys in your silo, being with the Navy and I guess Marine Corps as well, like you're solving for a problem that the Army side has been kind of dealing with now for a number of years, and then feasibly at some point the Air Force will have a similar line of effort. We're just going to end up with branches operating differently under different regulations. And then you've got providers hopping from one to the other because they allow me to do this over here versus here. Like, when does this all get synchronized and what does that look like? And is that even possible? Like, this feels high level.
It really gets down to having the right people in the room to make common sense decisions with operational leadership in the same room, telling them exactly what their needs are. And if we're not able, as the supporting organization, get to the point where we can figure out how to get the supported commander's intent fulfilled, then we are going to be the ones that are going to continuously paralyze that effect moving forward.
Alex, I know we just want a Department of War Human Performance Center of Excellence.
I mean, Kevin's certainly like the Department of War is doing stuff now to attempt to synchronize some of these things. I don't know if they're listening, but I will say, I think leveraging the like WPO organization that's there now to advocate for solving some of these policy issues is like, that's where I see them adding the most value. Like what I fear from the WPO stuff, if it goes wrong, is just a senseless amount of reporting requirements, like just constant data calls, new data that needs to be collected. Like,
do you want to explain what WPO is real quick?
Warfighter performance optimization. Like, people that are nerdy enough to listen to this podcast probably know about total force fitness. This is like the new incarnation of total force fitness at the Pentagon level. It's evolving. There was a Secretary of War memorandum that gave some direction. There was a follow-up implementation guidance memo. All of this is ongoing. They're trying to figure out what it looks like, what next steps are. They're going out to the services to learn like which services have figured out what things, what's not working. Is it different between the different services? And to return to what I was saying, I worry that we're like hyper fixated on data stuff. Like that's what is the hype right now. Like everybody's all about data, and data can bog you down just as fast as it can speed you up. Like we have said many times on this podcast, in many cases, we are not leveraging the data we already have spending more time, effort, and money collecting additional data when we have not demonstrated an ability to leverage that data for better work is negligence, I would argue. Like it's like wasting time that could be used for something good. But where I think a ton of value could come from is like all these policy issues we're talking about like medical versus human performance. Like that is a place where a coordinating body at the Pentagon could represent the services in like, because sometimes laws need to be changed. Sometimes it's not just a service level policy. Sometimes it's a Congress thing. And that I think is the place where the most value could come from this WPO body is figuring out what the policy priorities are and then going and fighting for them.
And making sure that whoever's at that level making those decisions are folks that are proficient in this arena, right? I will say Vice Admiral Vi and now retired Rear Admiral Hancock, they were very instrumental in getting the Human Performance Center built on a DHA platform at Camp Lejeune at the School of Infantry East. I know I've posted quite a bit about that effort, a unity of effort where you have SMIP and SMART working in the same facility together, right? So now you have Vice Admiral Vi in the DHA seat. And do we put WPO under DHA, right? Is that language out there that might be upcoming? We don't know, right?
That's the beef of the day. I get the impression
the beef of the day.
We're talking about this live. For the audience, I posted my opinion pretty overtly on LinkedIn. I was surprised by how openly people were able to engage with it, because this is like directly advocating for Congress to change their mind on something. But we did see pretty hard pushback from a lot of folks in the space on like, that doesn't really make sense. A lot hinges. This is about to get in the weeds, and I'm going to lose people. Some people are going to turn off the podcast if they hear.
I'm mad at myself that I know what you're talking about.
It's going to get worse. There's a different part of the Senate version of the NDAA that
National Defense Authorization Act for people.
Yep.
I'm narrating. You keep going.
Yeah, and we are still not nearly at the part where something gets signed into law. They haven't reconciled between House and Senate, so I don't worry too much yet. But a different provision of the Senate version that just came out does call for realigning Assistant Secretary of War level portfolios. So like in this space, we're used to working with PNR, personnel and readiness. That would go away under the Senate version of the NDAA. Like readiness would get yanked out and partnered in a new ASW that would be ASW sustainment and readiness. And then it would be like personnel and health. I think it was like a lot of reorganization that I kind of hope doesn't happen, because it sounds really complicated and frustrating. But that's the like one level up concern of who does it belong to? It currently belongs to PNR, but PNR might change to not include R. Where does it go?
Right. And who's it getting resourced? How is that allocation of funding going to work? Where is appropriations going to happen? And that was a big question when I was pitching the manpower request last week. Is I dropped the SecWar memo in front of them. I dropped Undersecretary Tata's intent to name a pilot program or pilot programs plural in the first 90 days. But where is it appropriated? Where's the funding source coming from? And I don't have answers to those questions.
So I think we'll leave that for other discussions, because that gets awfully complicated. I'll pivot to a weird one. I mentioned before recording. So like listeners, Kevin sent us a ton of documentation. We did not read all of it. I will admit
I did.
Sorry, Drew's much more up to speed than I am. I had a job to do today. Sorry. But I scanned it. I looked for some things. And I noted that as far as I can tell, your positions are not specified yet on which ones are active duty, which ones are civilian, which ones are contractors. So that's still up in the air. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And from some LinkedIn conversations, it sounds like you've learned a ton about the contracting process recently.
It's a blast.
I want to intentionally put you in a slightly awkward position that will lead me to a policy pitch I'd like to make. Are your contracts going to be personal services or non-personal services if you use contractors?
It'll all come down to what my Corps tells me to do. right?
Okay. That's a good answer. That's actually the correct answer.
What a good answer.
It'll come, and our core is great. Our comptroller has been creative in creating solutions for some of these stopgap performance programs that we've been able to roll out both at HSC Atlantic, and we're looking at another location right now, bridging the program from contracts to GS active duty hybrid type of scenario. So it all comes down to where the funding's coming from. Is it coming from O&M funds? Is it coming from this brand new magical WPO money? Is it going to come from 1A, which is like flight money, flight hours, gas?
Interesting.
And yeah, so how do you allocate that funding appropriately where, one, you don't get red flags raised at you, you don't get your commander in trouble, and at the same time, how do you roll out a program where you don't know where the funding sources are coming from? So the right answer is wherever the core tells us to do, as far as where we can get the source of funding to align with what we're trying to roll out while meeting the commander's intent. And my boss's full intent is to roll out a performance program the same way that he was able to stand up his prototype when he was down as the commander or chief of naval air training.
So where I'm going to spin this one real quick, and this, I'm taking a little bit of a shot at the Army here, but we'll do it in a productive way. I said earlier that policy change is where I think WPO could do a lot of good for human performance efforts across the services. One of those policy changes that I think is necessary to be in legal compliance and to do right by potential contractors is a personal services exemption for human performance programs. And we're about to get possibly the nerdiest I've ever gotten on this podcast. I am going to read directly from the Federal Acquisitions Regulation.
Oh, I love that thing now.
Wow. We've arrived. Here we are.
The reason anatomy to the FAR. It's wonderful.
The reason I'm going to do this is because this is a constant debate, and like I hear a lot of opinions from coaches about this.
I'm proud of you.
And I want to get everybody on the same page because I think it's important. The following is a quote. A personal services contract is characterized by the employer-employee relationship it creates between the government and the contractor's personnel. The government is normally required to obtain its employees by direct hire under competitive appointment or other procedures required by civil service laws. Obtaining personal services by contract rather than by direct hire circumvents those laws unless Congress has specifically authorized acquisition of the services by contract. So I think that's clear. The most common exemptions I am aware of, I did a quick Google. The ones I was previously aware of are healthcare personnel, like medical. There's a broad exemption for that. And there's a broad exemption for special operations. There also seem to be other ones, very specific ones for experts and consultants, very specific ones for overseas, like defense intelligence kind of stuff, very narrow exemptions. So the broad ones are healthcare and special operations. Going to talk to the strength and conditioning coaches for a second directly.
Hey guys.
This is also a quote from the same section of the FAR, 37104. The following descriptive elements should be used as a guide in assessing whether or not a proposed contract is personal in nature. Performance is on site. Principal tools and equipment furnished by the government.
Check.
Services are applied directly to the integral effort of agencies or an organizational subpart in furtherance of assigned function or mission.
Got that one. Also check. 3 for 3.
Comparable services meeting comparable needs are performed in the same or similar agencies using civil service personnel.
Check. 4 for 4.
The need for the type of service provided can reasonably be expected to last beyond 1 year.
Also true.
And
Kevin, our group chat was blowing up the other day because of this.
And the last one.
This is what we talk about.
The inherent nature of the service or the manner in which it is performed reasonably requires, directly or indirectly, government direction or supervision of the contract employees in order to adequately protect the government's interest, retain control of the function involved, or retain full personal responsibility for the function supported in a duly authorized federal officer or employee.
A jackpot.
So coaches meet all
of them. All of them.
And like, I don't want to like go on a podcast and say we're just ignoring the FAR, but like, I feel like we could clean a lot of things up if we just carved out an exception so we could do it right.
Question.
Alex, I'm quoting the FAR on every contract that I'm creating right now, and I'm quoting that exact paragraph bulleted.
If this might be a dumb question, but if human performance becomes medical, as is proclaimed to be, does that exemption include human performance now? That medical personal services exemption, healthcare, so to speak?
Maybe, but
or are we dancing around that because it's cheaper?
Well, the problem H2F ran
services.
into was that like DHA doesn't consider athletic trainers medical providers, and like they're coming along and figuring it out in more settings. But like broadly, there was like no role for them, and that's what created this weird credentialing situation for H2F. I think it would be way worse if you tried to wrap strength and conditioning coaches into it. Not credentialed, definitely not privileged, like not medical providers in any sense of the word.
Although exercise is the best medicine. I mean, we have a doctor on the podcast.
And we do have aerospace exercise physiologists that are Navy medicine. And they are strength and conditioning coaches too, right? So
who's to blame?
What I will tell you is that in the position work statements that I'm putting together, and how the program's being laid out, it is going to have in the hierarchy of clinical oversight, sports medicine physician, medical, clinical, human performance oversight, and all skill types lined up in the hierarchy, in the privileging, credentialing, oversight, quality, and management programmatic effects that will need to be in place for the program to meet the requirements of my bosses when it comes to their privileging authority, so that we make sure that the program is as kosher as possible, blessed by the rabbi, and put forward in a way that makes the contracts work, that can check those boxes for the oversight piece and can check those boxes for every single bullet point you just mentioned from the FAR.
So what's the timeline here? What's the timeline for Navy human performance? When are people going to see stuff?
If I had all the money today, no, realistically.
Yeah.
If WPO is appropriated and we had a funding source, and no kidding, Undersecretary Tata's 90-day timeline, and the WPO working groups that some of us on here may or may not have attended has timelines associated with what data we're going to collect and what the timelines are to meet SecWar and the Undersecretary's timelines. Do I have an off-the-shelf program that could be resourced and implemented by summer 2027? The answer is yes. Am I able to use a phased approach where I start at the highest investments that the taxpayer has provided, your strike fighter pilots, your strike fighter wings, and put active duty resources in those positions? Physical therapists, sports medicine physicians, physical therapy techs, corpsmen, aerospace exercise physiologists, aerospace experimental psychologists, aerospace clinical psychologists. We've already done it at Training Wing 6. That's the team we put together. They're there in one place. I can put 2 to 4 of those in scaled in the next year or so. We're graduating 4 sports medicine physician fellows next summer that are already flight surgeons. I could put all 4 of them in all of the 4 strike fighter wings, along with physical therapy, who is overmanned at this point, and they can't even direct a session new active duty physical therapists into the Navy. But if we have those billets, our denominator for the manpower people changes, so then we can turn the direct a session button back open so that we can get these physical therapists into these positions.
That gets dangerously Congressy though, doesn't it? Getting new active duty billets.
So
that is in our POM 29 request.
There it is.
That's the active request.
Done his homework.
Requested 73 new billets, 20 physical therapists, 20 physical therapy techs, 18 sports medicine physicians, as well as rounding out the previously palmed for clinical psychologists. That was CNO directed a few years back to put clinical psychologists at all the type wings and the training wings in the Navy because of the mental health issues at the moment. So we have a few locations that didn't get that POM request. So that's where you get the 73 is I'm rounding out the teams. And what I'd love to do is put some GS POMs in there for sustainment pieces, some GS strength and conditioning, some GS athletic trainers, etc. And then round out the rest of the team with the contracts. Phased in approach, 20 sites across Naval Aviation Enterprise, starting POM 29, which would be fall of 2028, and rolled out over the course of 3 to 4 years, with the last site going live in 2033. So that is what it looks like on paper. That is the POM request that was submitted. We'll see where it rack and stacks, and we'll see if it gets up to Navy personnel and OPNAV and up to those levels. We made the first cut, so we'll see where it trends next. But I will tell you, my boss is a very vocal advocate for the program. And the feedback that I've been getting from the ground, from flight surgeons that I know, from random DMs that I've been getting on Instagram and LinkedIn from squadron COs, squadron XOs, wing commodores, is that they can't wait for this program to go live, and whatever they can do to help to advocate for it, please let me know. And it's just been a fascinating process to watch unfold just 6 weeks into the job.
Boom. Heard it here first,
great.
team. Navy HP coming to a squadron near you.
Integrative restoration and optimization centers.
Yeah.
IROC. It just hits hard.
I like that. Man, these closer questions are going to come out of left field, given where we just spent our time. What's your favorite upper body exercise?
We've been changing it up.
Yeah, you've already been here. We got to mix it up.
I'll unhippa myself. I'm penning a right shoulder MRI, so at the moment, not many, but I love incline chest flies.
Incline chest fly. Interesting.
They feel really good. They hit certain points that you can't get on a flat bench, and you can modify the exercise with dumbbells a lot. So
incline chest
you
fly.
can really target recruit a lot of various supporting muscle structures too. Even when you lighten the weights, you can also rotate with your rotator cuff to target different parts of the rotator cuff, deltoids, traps, etc. So yeah, I like the incline dumbbell press.
Incline dumbbell. Flying. Okay, lower body.
Before he goes to lower body, I want to share one that's like kind of a fly. It was one of the cool. This is a shout out to Coach Riley up in Alaska. You set up like you're doing flies, like pick the same kind of dumbbells, but then put a medicine ball between the dumbbells, and do like a chest press movement, but while squeezing on the medicine ball.
That's cool. That's like a Pilates move. So I'm a big Pilates fan, and anything where you can recruit other muscles while you're doing the
I've never done Pilates.
Simple.
I haven't either. I've been under some pressure too. We have like neighbors and friends who are actually she's a Pilates instructor now. So like I might.
Can you just get this man? Can you? I'm going to sound so dumb. Can you just go to a class? Is
yes.
like.
So
okay.
Do you want to know a fun background? Is Joseph Pilates, the inventor of Pilates? He actually invented it for
time out.
World War.
Pilates is the name of a dude?
It's the name of a dude, Joseph Pilates. Yep.
No way.
So what he did, he invented this method because he was very into I want to restore using spine elongation techniques in these returning Army soldiers during one of the world wars. And he didn't have resistance equipment. He didn't have exercise resistance bands, etc. So he used the box springs from box springs that were laying around, and used those springs to create the Pilates method. And that's where you have now
Joseph
Pilates. Reformer. Yeah. So it was actually invented for dudes returning from war in the Army. My wife's actually a Pilates instructor. as her
He
push
was
gift.
German.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Trapeze artist and some other cool things he did during his career. Yeah, fascinating story. But the Pilates method is very good. If you do systematic reviews of back and spine, when it comes to restorative care, core stabilization for the low back, Pilates method really makes it out on top in a lot of these systematic reviews. So
For people watching, my jaw is dropped because I just did a quick. This dude developed contrology, as it used to be called, when he was confined in a British internment camp on the Isle of Man during World War One.
Dang.
Now I want to do Pilates because it sounds low key, kind of badass. Also, his picture, great set of legs on this dude.
Yep. So, and if you Google NFL players and Pilates, like the Patriots use it as part of their programming. I believe it's in the TB12 method.
Man,
so
Netflix needs to get a hold of
this. Very proficient in professional sports,
Huh.
and mainly because it elongates the spine, but also recruits not only core but pelvic floor. And it also combines a lot of movements while you're focusing on breathing techniques, which also stimulates the vagus nerve, which also helps you downshift. So there's so many significant benefits when it comes to the Pilates method.
This is fascinating because the mainstream interpretations I've seen are that it doesn't have the same effect as resistance training on muscle building and bone density. So like throw it out the window. But it sounds like that's an apples to oranges comparison.
This is like,
it's an and therapy or an and modality. It's not an or. So yes, you still need to lift heavy.
I like that.
You still need to lift heavy. However, if you want to be more powerful and more explosive, you get that from core pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is the hammock. The core provides the rest of the power. And it helps support your spine while you're doing it, and you develop core power out. So by incorporating Pilates as an and adjunct to your training plan, you're going to make yourself more explosive. You're also going to protect your spine. Think about the population that I'm getting involved with right now, protecting the spine.
Yeah.
You bet yourself Pilates is going to be part of our program.
I was just about to ask, where in the manpower survey, GS active duty contractor, where the Pilates instructor is going to feature?
Right. So
I'm excited.
A very
Naval Pilates.
Concept. And there's quite a few physical therapy maneuvers that incorporate a lot of like quote unquote mat Pilates techniques to them. There are certain physical therapy devices that are very similar to Pilates reformers, especially when it comes to the leg press with other compound movements. So there's a lot of overlap with standard physical therapy, restorative care, and Pilates method that kind of hit at the same things. But the spine preservation program is going to be one key programmatic component to the Naval Aviation Human Performance Program, a dedicated spine preservation program.
Do you think you guys will rebrand this and come up with an acronym the way the Army's done with yoga? Sorry, that was on the nose.
Yeah. Well, whatever gets people to think about it.
Whatever gets them going.
We'll come up with something fun.
I like that.
We started with IROC, so we're going to take it from there.
We can't let you go without asking for the lower body exercise, though. So we have incline chest flies, that was a good one. Yeah. Lower body.
So my hips are so freaking jacked up. You name the tear in my intra-articular area, both hips, I have them. I don't know if I had a missed like injury when I was younger or whatever, but my range of motion totally sucks. And yes, if you were to tell me to touch my toes, which one of your posts said we should be able to touch your toes,
that's courtesy of Drew.
That was me.
I can't do it.
Well, then you suck at being a human.
But I'm a hack squat guy.
Okay.
Love the hack squat. I love different foot positioning variations. I like doing eccentric, concentric, isometric, as well as other variations with the hack squat machine. And because my shoulders are so jacked up, doing free weight barbell tends to be a little bit more complicated when I want to hit certain posterior chain and anterior chain components. So the hack squat allows me to really dedicate significant training towards targeting and recruiting different muscle groups in the lower body. So that's my lower body exercise.
See, so this is a new set of closers. We retired the deserted island because we kind of decided kettlebell was the right answer.
Yeah.
What you've just done there, sir, is set a very high bar, because not only did you state your exercise, you then went into a very deep description as to why anatomically, physiologically, psychologically that is the case. So for all of our
that
future
Pilates
guests,
side thing has like,
I have this written down, Alex. Future podcast episode, you and I are both going to go take a Pilates class separately, come back and record our thoughts.
I think we have to also.
I live with a real life Pilates instructor, so
she may be the one that we feature.
Host and
yes,
naval aviator. So
even
talk
better.
About the history of this too.
Oh, I got it pulled up right here. We're doing it. You've set us on a new side quest, Kevin. Thank you.
She put in hundreds of hours to become a Pilates instructor, and all of this like unpaid work doing it. So it's not easy to do, but the method is phenomenal.
I'm intrigued. Well, sir, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing a little bit about naval human performance, folks. Stay tuned because it's coming to an installation near you. So thank you. Team, welcome to the after party for the Navy Human Performance Podcast. I wasn't kidding when I wrote Pilates down on my notepad. I think you're right. We should do, like, there's some pretty cool historical stuff there. But not to make this closer all about Pilates, I am genuinely fascinated as to what the future looks like in this space when all of the branches are competing with each other to create like the right version of human performance, unless, levels above them get their shit together and kind of manage. Because there's no way. I
mean, I think there's a couple pieces to this. Competition is good in many ways. It is certainly good for the pay of professionals in these fields. So we'll see how that impact goes. And then this has nothing to do with what you just said, but I have to apologize to the audience. I don't think we talked about FIDEP in that episode. We didn't get quite that nerdy, but we did talk about the FAR. We did talk about POM. We did talk if you made it this far,
stuff you read for fun. Yeah. That was a wild ride. But I think it was good. I think that for the folks who didn't know what we were talking about, hopefully this was effective and fruitful. The other thing I was thinking as he was talking was like, and this is not meant to knock contracting companies necessarily, but like they're having a hard enough time filling one branch's requirements. Yeah. What happens when Navy comes online, Air Force blows up? I mean, I'm assuming Coast Guard, granted not DOW, quote unquote, but still.
There's a layer within that too of like whichever branch writes the contract best that leads to the highest caliber of coach is going to vacuum up like everybody. Like they're just going to get everybody, and then like the next branch is going to have to figure out how to get all their people back from that branch.
Yeah,
like, I see that as very frustrating for the services and for like the program directors, and freaking amazing for the industry.
If the industry leverages that reality well, which is sort of something we talk about on the side. Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, you're going to go from a world where people are like, I work for this university versus this one. You're going to have Navy guys, Army guys. Interesting. Well, cool, team. I think exciting stuff coming up. So stay tuned. We will see you all next week. This week's episode is brought to you by Teamworks. Team, we all know that connected families make better supported service members. Teamworks keeps military families informed, engaged, and in the loop, all in one place. To learn more, visit teamworkstactical.com today. Hey, Alex, let's cover our ass real quick.
Oh, great idea, Drew. All right, guys. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Before you go, please rate and review the pod on the listening platform of your choice. You can also visit us on our website at www.mopsinmos.com. That's mops, the letter N, mos.com. You can check out the library of podcast episodes, our latest blog entries, any helpful resources, and also sign up for our newsletter.
Drew nailed it. Just to underline a couple of things, the podcast entries have in-depth show notes on the website. So if you missed anything or you want to read any of the research we talk about, it is all there. You can, at the bottom of the website, sign up with your email and receive future updates from us. The blog posts go a little bit more in depth in kind of written form on a couple of topics we get questions about all the time. But most importantly, I just want to ask all you guys, our best way the word gets out is absolutely word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell the people you work with, anybody you think would find it useful. Thanks for spreading the word.
If you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot us an email at either Drew or Alex at mopsinmos.com.
Or there's a contact form on the website.
Thank you.